O'Grady, the pick.
You're watching NBC.
It's Friday, June 9th, 1995, and this is Dateline NBC. Tonight.
It was a family tradition, working the land and scratching out a living. But that was before big city trouble came to their corner of the world.
My neighbor called and they said there's helicopters and there's a lot of police over here. There's something happening.
A police raid, a drug lab, toxic chemicals destroying their land, and a bill for them from the government.
You would have to pay for a cleanup that was done by drug dealers.
Deborah Roberts with the story of being made to pay for someone else's crime.
Shot down over enemy territory, lost for 6 days. A dramatic rescue brings him home again.
When I was out there, I knew you were all there behind me. I could hear you, and I knew it, and I knew that everything that could be possibly done was being done.
How did they find him? How did he survive?
He's stubborn. He's going to get out of there, and he did.
The rescue of Captain Scott O'Grady in a Dateline Minute by Minute.
Around the river bend, waiting just around the river bend.
Sure, she can sing, but can she do for Disney what the Lion King did?
Pocahontas.
What? What did you say?
My name is Pocahontas.
She's Disney's biggest gamble ever. We'll tell you why. Take you behind the magic. And hey, does that voice sound familiar? You have the most unusual name, too. John Smith. I get to be a Disney cartoon.
Stand just around the river bend.
He was known as Joe Cool, because when the game was on the line, he always came through.
There's one reason to play the game, and that's to be the best and to win.
Now, after all the Super Bowls, all the smiles, all the memories, Joe Montana is moving on.
People say you're the best quarterback of all time. Do you back away from that, or does it sound right?
An inside look at life as a legend. On the Bob Costas interview.
Dateline with Jane Pauley and Stone Phillips, plus Tom Brokaw, Katie Couric, Bryant Gumbel, and Maria Shriver. From Studio 3B in New York, here is Katie Couric.
Good evening. Have you ever tried to do something that you thought was right, only to end up feeling like you did something wrong? As they say, no good deed goes unpunished. We begin tonight with a story that's an extraordinary example of just how bad things can turn out for some people who were only trying to do the right thing. Should they pay the price, or should taxpayers share the pain? Here's Deborah Roberts.
Come on, girls. Over the hill. Go on.
Bill Warren's family has been ranching along the Central California coast for 5 generations.
Come on.
He runs the 9,000-acre ranch now, but his parents, Florence and Walter, both 82, still pitch in. It's a hard, modest living.
I have nephews, cousins, nieces. We all, when we need help, we call. They all come in and help.
But in a tucked-away ravine on the Warren homestead by the Santa Rosa Creek, this stunning landscape suddenly turns eerie. Trees are bare, cold, and dead. Strange weeds shoot out of the ground. Something went wrong here. Bill remembers the first hint of trouble.
We went down through the stream, and 5 gentlemen came out of the bushes. And my hired hand said, maybe we better go investigate. But I got a feeling, don't fool with these guys. They were giving us these dirty looks. And I said, no, we'll take care of this later.
But before he could, the police stepped in.
This is KSBY Action News at 6.
It's one of the biggest drug busts in San Luis Obispo County history.
In September of 1993, state drug agents raided a small 40-acre piece of the Warren Ranch, rented out to a hired hand who said he wanted to plant vegetables. What investigators discovered was no crop, but a makeshift lab cooking a drug called methamphetamine, known on the street as crank. Like cocaine or crack, meth is an upper, a type of speed that can make the user violent. So they were back here just making a boatload of drugs?
Yes.
And you had no
week.
idea?
No idea. at all.
Now, this is, what, a few miles away from your ranch?
Yeah, it's about 6 miles. As the bird flies, it's about 15 miles to drive.
And you never could have seen this spot from the road?
No, it's very well hidden down in here.
Which is what usually happens. Police bust a meth lab every 17.5 hours in California, most hidden away in rural locations like the Warren Ranch. And who's masterminding them? State officials blame a Mexican drug cartel called the Sinaloa Cowboys, a gang known for their cowboy clothes and violent way of dealing with those who cross them. They smuggle in chemicals from Mexico, then organize a network of hired hands to set up meth labs on farms and ranches.
They sort of did the whole thing from beginning to end. Produce it, distribute it, have the sales involved in it.
California Attorney General Dan Lundgren says crank labs are showing up all over the state.
In California, my office was involved in closing down over 400 labs this last year. We are taking down, I believe, well over half of all the labs in the United States just here in the state of California.
Police say the 17 men arrested at the Warren Ranch were part of the Sinaloa Cowboys. A major bust, investigators said. So these men were all arrested?
Right.
And you thought that was the end of the story?
That's right, but it wasn't.
As it turns out, the Warrens' ordeal was only just beginning. This is the story of a family which tried to do the right thing after what happened here, but found out the laws designed to protect them only punish them instead. And as you'll find out before it's all over, the Warrens will lose land, money, and their faith in the government. At any meth lab bust, like this one at a San Diego County farm, you'll see people in special white moon suits. That's because the leftover waste from cooking meth is highly toxic. That waste killed the trees on the Warren property. Drug makers simply poured the poison down a hole in the ground about 20 yards from Santa Rosa Creek. And guess who the state said now owned all that toxic waste and had to pay for the cleanup? The bills were being sent to you to clean it up.
Exactly.
The Warrens were trapped by the first of several laws that worked against them. A law meant for ranchers who foul their own land on purpose. You pay for the toxic cleanup.
But if we didn't pay it, they would just put a lien against the property. Well, if you get a lien against the property, then you have, it's a mess to get it undone again.
Wasn't it your responsibility to know what was going on your property?
We were just taken. I mean, if you had a house and rented it to somebody, and they had a lab in the house, I guess you're supposed to, be liable for that house that you rented. I don't know. I think it's unfair. You can't just watch everything and everybody.
Invoices soon piled up, digging the contaminated dirt, testing it, moving it. As the cost reached into the thousands, Bill pleaded for help from the state.
Everybody was sympathetic. I mean, we're sorry. It doesn't sound right to us, but we can't help you.
Well, I've got sympathy for them, there's no doubt about it, but I come down to the bottom line, which is when you own property, you're responsible for it. Either that, or you're going to turn over the responsibility of that property to the state.
But is it right that they should have to pay for what happened when they had no idea that this was happening? They're victims, too.
Well, they're victims in a sense, but look, it's a telltale sign. If somebody's going to come and rent your property and give you large amounts of cash over a regular period of time with no questions asked, that might raise some suspicion in your mind. It certainly ought to.
But the Warrens were suspicious. Remember, they didn't rent to cash-waving strangers, but to a trusted ranch hand they'd known for 7 years. And on top of that, even before the bust, they tried to evict him since he'd fallen behind in rent and the land was now in bad shape.
The crops weren't being taken care of. He wasn't bringing checks. He was selling produce, and we knew that, but he didn't have any money to give us.
But because the ranch hand had planted that crop, the Warrens were caught by state law again, a catch-22 that says landowners cannot evict a farmer until his crop is harvested. So essentially the law tied your hands. I mean, you couldn't get rid of this man.
We couldn't get rid of him. We couldn't say in 2 weeks you're out or in a month you're out. It was when the crops were done, you're out.
Later, as the bills kept coming in, the Warrens got this idea. They sent a letter to their state assemblyman asking that money seized in the bust be used to foot their cleanup bills.
I thought, well, they'll use the money from what they've picked up there to help clean up.
Wrong again. California law says any money seized in drug raids must go back into law enforcement, nowhere else.
I'm taking down over 400 labs a year. You take my money from our agency, who's going to take those down?
More bills for the Warrens and another legal nightmare. Officials ordered the family to spread the contaminated soil on plastic over their own farmland to air out the poisons.
Aerate is what they called it.
They told you to do all this?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did that affect the property that you threw it out on?
Couldn't be used. It's still not being used today. So that field's just laying without being used for 3 years. That's costing money, too.
Now, there was a loophole in the law that finally could have worked for the Warrens.
And so all this underground area was becoming full of...
Contaminated.
Contaminated.
And right next to the creek over here.
Right next to the creek.
If they delayed their cleanup for just a few weeks, toxins would have seeped into nearby Santa Rosa Creek, the main water supply for the town of Cambria, population 3,000.
If it had got into the water supply, then there was a ruling that said that the state can come in and clean that up, or the county, and it would have been on there. They would have done it, and we wouldn't have had to pay for it.
But you worked to make sure it didn't get into the county water supply.
Correct.
We don't want to pollute our neighbors.
We're not going to pollute our neighbors or the Cambria water supply, just so that the state can pick up the bill.
They couldn't do that to a land and town their family had lived in since 1860. Folks in Cambria, when they heard about the problem, sent money. The Warrens, 5 generations proud, sent it back. So the family paid all the bills. Final tally, just under $30,000. In ranch country, families save that kind of money for special taxes they have to pay when time comes to turn the land over to their kids. Now, that money is gone.
It really made me sick. I really got sick over it.
Isn't this, though, a case of state agencies sort of just shuffling the problem around? I mean, you say law enforcement can only do so much.
Right.
The EPA says they can only
That's
do
true.
so much. The toxic waste people say they can only do
Right.
so much. So who can really help here?
Hey, let's remember who those people are. I represent the taxpayers. The EPA represents the taxpayers. Toxic control people represent the taxpayers. The question is, should the taxpayers pay the primary burden of cleaning this up, or should the property owner?
For the state, it's clear. But for the Warrens, it gets very personal. They know the Sinaloa Cowboys are still operating, moving their labs from one isolated place to another, just ahead of the state, which shuts the labs down one after the other. The Warrens, left in the wake of a game of hide-and-seek, feel they're the only ones who had to pay a price.
If we knew what was happening, I think that law pertains to us. We should lose our property, or they should put us in jail, or we should pay for it. We didn't know what was going on as a drug lab. We thought he was just farming vegetables, and that was it. My parents aren't young. I mean, it hit them really hard. I mean, here they thought they'd been doing right, and all of a sudden the government comes in and tells them, no, you have a cleanup to do, and this, and it makes you feel guilty when you're not even guilty.
Walter and Florence Warren hope to turn over full ownership of their ranch to their son by next year. But to pay inheritance and other taxes, Bill Warren says he'll have to sell a large chunk of his family's land, perhaps as much as a few hundred acres.
Still ahead.
The men and women of the Navy and the Marines came in there and saved me. And if you want to find some heroes, that's where you should look.
The dramatic rescue of Captain Scott O'Grady in a Dateline Minute by Minute. Also, he's always been a winner on the field, but what's Joe Montana like at home?
Can any man be Joe Cool to his wife?
No.
Joe Montana on the Bob Costas Interview. Dateline is sponsored in part by Dodge. The more things change, the more things look like the new Dodge.
Dodge changed the rules of truck power, the rules of safety, comfort, convenience. And while we were changing those rules, another one changed all by itself. New rule, Dodge pickups now have higher resale than Ford, Chevy, or GMC. Want proof? Check the rule book. The rules have changed. At America's Truck Stop, the new Dodge.
I love eggs from my head down to my legs.
Heard the latest news about eggs and cholesterol? Right for our booklet, Eggs in Good Health.
Ooh, you gotta love it, the incredible edible egg.
How did it start? Honey? It started with a craving.
Hi, honey.
Telephone? First pregnancy. Most people, you'd think pickles, ice cream. Not my wife. Not once she got a whiff of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Starving.
Those 11 herbs and spices, wants it all the time. Morning, noon, and night. Honey. This is supposed to last a couple months, right? Wrong. Only now they went and marinated it. It's got that same great original recipe taste in every bite, so she loves it even more.
Everybody needs a little KFC.
Right now at Sears Auto Center, all Bridgestone tires are on sale 5 to 15% off, featuring the Bridgestone Road Handler with a 75,000-mile warranty and free road hazard coverage. So hurry into Sears Auto Center today.
Next week on Today, our guide to life after 50 focuses on finance and how to manage your money to guarantee a safe retirement. See what a difference Today makes next week.
This summer, the search is on. They make the rescues no one else even thinks about.
We'll get your daughter off the mound.
We're losing them!
A special series preview Sunday after basketball.
You do what you have to do to save them.
Robert Conrad in Search and Rescue, NBC Sunday.
Here now is Jane Pauley.
Still ahead tonight, tough acts to follow.
Tale as old as time.
It all started with Beauty and the Beast, the first Disney film to gross more than $100 million. If you're a parent, you probably know every song by heart.
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck.
Disney's next blockbuster was Aladdin. It doubled the box office of Beauty and was nominated for 5 Academy Awards.
Oh, look, sire. The herd is on the move.
But it was The Lion King that proved Disney king of the animated jungle. Add in the overseas take, and it's
thanks to a medicine developed by Eli Lilly and Company. She's doing just fine. Today, Lilly is doing more than ever. By collecting, analyzing, and sharing information from around the world, Lilly keeps healthcare professionals up to date with more effective ways to help their patients like Sarah live healthier, more active lives. Eli Lilly and Company. Knowledge is powerful medicine.
Deep beneath the Gotham City McDonald's, the time has come for the Gotham Glassware Collection. Get all your favorite characters from the movie Batman Forever, including Batman himself and the Riddler, chiseled in high-quality glass. Take a break at McDonald's and collect all 4. Just 99 cents each when you buy any McDonald's Extra Value meal or any other food purchase.
Here you are, sir. Batman.
Now I've got him!
Over the past 3 years, Dodge has offered a choice of more new nameplates than anybody else. Here are 3 more new choices that make it easier for you to drive the technically stunning Dodge Intrepid. Like savings and values to $1,897, or an interest rate as low as 1.9%, or choose an Intrepid lease rate of only $219 a month. The Dodge Buyer's Choice Sale. The choice is all yours. See the friendly Dodge dealer near you.
Tonight, hang on to your utility bill because Jay's got Batman, Val Kilmer, plus from the Indiana Pacers, Reggie Miller, and Playboy model Sandra Taylor. And Conan's got Larry King, NBC tonight.
A loving mother is murdered. Her husband and his best friend stand accused.
Each of them says that he didn't kill her.
But who really did it?
Killed his wife and his son.
They couldn't convict him, and so now they're blaming me.
Based on actual events, Timothy Busfield, Stephen Lang.
Nice little murder between friends.
An NBC movie event, Monday. Parental discretion advised.
was the kind of rescue you read about in best-selling books. A pilot lost in hostile territory, surviving on bugs and his wits. 6 days later, a radio signal is heard, 2 helicopters launch, touch down, and a young hero is safe. To hear rescued Air Force Captain Scott O'Grady tell it, it was just that simple. But of course, it really wasn't. Mike Betcher is in Italy at Aviano Air Base and has the story of O'Grady's dramatic...
The people I want to thank are the people that came in there and risked, they say they were just doing their job, but they came in there, they risked their lives to get me out.
Bosnia. Captain Scott O'Grady had been missing for almost a week in the hostile countryside of the land that was once Yugoslavia. Sleeping by day, traveling at night, eating whatever he could find. That ordeal was about to come to an end. 2:08 Thursday morning, the mission to rescue Scott O'Grady begins.
We were on a routine patrol out over the Adriatic when we picked up Captain O'Grady's signal first. And that was the first indication to us that he was alive.
O'Grady's signal is picked up by Captain Thomas Hanford, a friend and fellow F-16 pilot.
Well, I'd been fishing on a frequency for about 40 minutes, just calling out his call sign. Not really expecting to hear anybody back, but I was going to give it a chance.
Hanford hears a transmission from O'Grady's handheld radio. This is Basher 52. I'm alive, and I need help.
And I'm alive. And I knew it was him. And it was a very happy moment, I think, for both of us.
It is confirmation that the missing flyer is 20 miles south of Bihać, well behind Serbian lines, 60 miles from the coast. Minutes later, a 41-man unit of United States Marines trained for just this kind of mission prepared to leave the USS Kearsarge, which has been sailing off the Croatian coast.
Part of the game. That's what we got to do. That's what we're here for.
They know all too well that they and O'Grady may never make it back to the ship.
Pretty much mixed emotions. Kind of excited to go in, but kind of scared also.
But there is a delay. NATO allies have not yet agreed to the mission.
We have trained and trained and trained for this, and we're ready to do it, and we just want to get it over with.
5:06, dawn. The mission is approved, but the safety of the night is lost.
The risk was assessed, and they said, okay, let's go in and do it in daylight.
5:50 a.m., 2 Marine Cobra gunships move off the flight line, as do the 2 CH-53 assault helicopters carrying the Marines. They will join the Harrier jump jets, A-10 tank killers, and F-16 fighter planes already assigned to the rescue mission. By now, Captain O'Grady knows help is coming.
I just try to keep him calm, talking to him on the radio, not having him talk back to save his batteries, but just to come up on the radio at every so often. I would give him updates.
As the Marines approached, O'Grady set off a smoke grenade to guide them. The Marines move in fast, pouring out of the choppers as they land, securing the drop zone.
If you're going to say you weren't scared, then you're either not human or you're lying. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I was scared.
As the troops move into position, the pilot watches from the woods.
To see him running through the brush, covered in sweat and water, with his pistol in his hand, making his way to the aircraft, it's not a scene that I'll soon forget.
6:44 a.m. O'Grady comes running out of the tree line and scrambles aboard a helicopter manned by Sergeant Scott Feaster.
Well, for a man that's been out there for 6 days, he looked really good. As far as physical condition, he looked fatigued and scared, but other than that, physically he looked really good.
6:49 a.m. local time at the White House. It is the middle of the night. The president is called. The message to the point. Got him. Bill Clinton and his national security advisor reportedly step out to the Truman balcony and smoke cigars in O'Grady's honor. 7:07 a.m. The race back to the ship. The men, the machines, and the mission. The months of training and days of planning could all be blown out of the sky if the choppers are detected. As they near the coast, trouble. A near miss from a shoulder-fired missile. And there is other ground fire.
Right up there, and it went through and it ricocheted. It made a couple other secondary holes in the top there.
And those bullets were rattling around inside.
One bullet was found inside the plane.
One bullet lodges in a sergeant's canteen, but the choppers race on. At 7:15 a.m., they are out of Bosnia and over the Adriatic Sea.
oh my God, the whole thing came together.
7:30 a.m. on board the Kearsarge. Mission accomplished. The missing pilot, missing no more.
The USS Kearsarge, the men and women of the Navy and the Marines came in there and saved me. And if you want to find some heroes, that's where you should look, because those are the biggest heroes in the world, as far as you want to ask me who the hero is.
You might be wondering what a pilot carries in his survival kit. Among the items, signal flares, a compass, a one-man raft, a 9mm pistol, and that radio. There's also a pamphlet with tips on evading the enemy, keeping warm, and surviving on bugs.
Might be coming.
Coming up.
Just around the river bend.
4 years in the making. We'll show you the magic behind this summer's blockbuster from Disney, Pocahontas.
Just around the river bend, beyond the shore.
Plus, millions of kids dream of growing up to be just like him. Now, it's his turn.
Who do you wonder about being? You ever find yourself thinking, I'd like to be like that guy. I wonder what it'd be like to be him.
Joe Montana, about the game and his new goals on the Bob Costas Interview.
What a way to start. A dream overtime victory in Game 1. Now Shaq and company try to work their own magic in Game 2. The NBA Finals, tonight on NBC.
Saturday, McCoy takes on the mob, and an old friend becomes a bitter rival.
This isn't a game of chicken.
Oh, yes, it is, and you just blink. A special night for Law & Order, NBC Saturday.
Bear, so I hear you're trying to start another car wars.
That's right, Uptrain. We'll sell our cars and trucks for less.
Prove it.
We'll win with sporty Escort Sunsports for only $10,995 and tough Nissan hard body pickups for a low $89.95. Plus, watch the Auto Moiler Crash Cars Saturday at 10 and 2.
Had enough? Never.
Save thousands during the biggest price war ever. The best of Car Wars. And offering Chevy Old Saab Geo and John Deere's Ford, Nissan, Jeep, and Eagle.
I will win Car Wars. And I'll win Car Wars. I will.
Six Flags St. Louis for 6 reasons. The all-new Batman, The Ride. The world's most thrilling suspended outside looping, nothing like it on Earth experience. The all-new Time Warner Studios, where you can experience a Hollywood movie studio backlot. The amazing Acrobats of China. Exciting Hollywood shows featuring the Robin Hood Stunt Spectacular and the Police Academy live-action comedy. Family fun rides. And finally, Six Flags is bigger than Disneyland and a whole lot closer to home. Six Flags St. Louis. Save $5 on one-day tickets at Kroger.
Johnny Bench for S&K.
S&K has offered fine quality menswear since before they were even born. Today's selection includes suits at 2 for $200, 2 for $300, and none higher than 2 for $500. Plus handsome sport coats and Pierre Cardin dress shirts. Menswear value for 28 years. Start your own tradition at S&K.
3 area locations in Bloomington, Champaign, and Springfield.
I'm Scott Guerrilla. It's a privilege to work for a station that's #1.
Here again is Katie Couric.
When you add it all up, the last 3 Disney animated movies grossed over $1.5 billion, and that's at the box office alone. That's more than the gross national product of some small nations. So, as you can imagine, expectations are extraordinarily high for the studio's next film. But this one may be Disney's biggest gamble yet. No dancing animals, no singing teapots. Instead, a love story torn from the pages of American history. So after 4 years of hard work, Disney is taking a big risk and praying that the world falls in love with Pocahontas.
You really put a lot of your heart into your drawings. I mean, you leave feeling tired at the end of the day.
Glenn Keane is worried. He spent the last 4 years trying to figure out a woman.
There's a feeling, there's an emotion, and I keep drawing and drawing and drawing and throwing stuff away until a drawing happens in front of me and a little bell goes off inside and you go, I hit it.
The woman is Pocahontas, and everyone at Disney is hoping Glenn Keane's bell rings true.
People, I guess, can't live like that. We all must pay a price. To be safe, we lose our chance of ever knowing what's around the river bend.
This is Disney's riskiest animated movie ever. Pocahontas isn't a myth set in some fairy tale kingdom. It's a true story about real people in a real place, Virginia.
Animators studied Native American ways and even visited with tribes in the Old Dominion. Just listen to John Pomeroy talk about the character he's animating, Pocahontas' main man, John Smith.
He's very frightened about self-examination because he may find out there's a big hole in his personality, in his mental and spiritual life.
You know you're not in the usual Disney territory.
This is how we figure out what we're going to do with our story.
John and Glenn had the biggest challenge in this film, drawing Sequence 11, the scene where the Indian princess and English settler have their very first encounter.
Where it's focused on her for quite some time, and the mist is kind of going in front of her.
This is that magical electric moment that he'll never forget. I mean, when he went back to England, this is the image that he thought of for that whole way back.
And if you don't buy it, you won't buy the whole movie. Unlike past Disney hits, no one will burst into song here when they meet. In fact, there won't even be much dialogue in the scene. The pressure is on.
Nobody's going to save you up there on the screen. If you do a drawing and suddenly her eye goes, you know, does something weird, the audience goes, oh, that's right, this is just a cartoon. What am I getting all caught up in this for, you know?
Just around the river bend, just around the river bend.
To show you how Pocahontas is brought to life, we have to take a few steps back, because animated movies don't begin with pen and ink. They actually start with words and music.
Why these dreams of mine extend just around the river bend, just around the river bend.
Before a script, before any drawing, composer Alan Menken and lyricist Stephen Schwartz sit down and write the songs.
We'll look at the outline and we'll say, we'll song spot. We'll say, probably there's a song there, probably this whole scene will become a song. And we'll begin, and then from that point on, it kind of ping-pongs back and forth.
Yeah. In 1607, we sailed the open sea for glory.
Animators then begin to storyboard the songs with simple drawings that show how those scenes might look.
Be rich and free, or so we have been told by the Virginia Company.
Come on, Nico. Meanwhile, a script is finished and actors record dialogue. All the Indians in the film are played by real Native Americans.
You do not like the necklace?
I'm John Smith.
Mel Gibson is the voice of John Smith.
You don't understand a word I'm saying, do you? You don't understand a word I'm saying, do you?
The animators use the dialogue to get a hook on how a character looks.
I know while you were drawing Pocahontas, you would try to listen to her voice. So how would that help you?
Well, I mean, the tape here, for example, I think this scene, let's see what it is.
Flit, he's back. Come on, Miko.
And the way she breathes, I can hear in her breath. And if she goes, I have to animate her shoulders coming up and her eyes opening a little bit, and just the way her movements.
And then how do I say, John Smith?
Well,
or John Smith.
John Smith, I think, is a little more of a kind of, you know.
But what if Disney suddenly asked me to be Pocahontas? Would that change her? Directors Mike Gabriel and Eric Goldberg led me through a recording session to see how I'd measure up. You have the most unusual name, too. John Smith.
Great. That was pretty good.
That was good.
There's a little bit of a j-j on John, but...
John? Did she does John?
No, you did.
I did. Oh, well, I think I added that. I think it adds to the story.
Let me take 3.
You have the most unusual name, too. John Smith.
Bingo. Right on the money.
Great. Very honest.
Is this woman who did the voice of Pocahontas under contract?
Oh, well. Armed with the voices of actors under contract, the drawing begins.
I'd like to talk about the moment where Pocahontas and John Smith meet each other.
Glenn Keane, clearly worried about Sequence 11, calls in his team of 18 animators to do some strategy.
It's the moment that's going to, I think, make this picture really unique, and if we can pull it off, it's going to make the picture work from this point on.
He plays a video of storyboards he's done for the scene, mixed in with some sound effects and dialogue.
I'm John Smith. No, wait.
Okay. So, good luck. I mean, it's going to be a challenge, but...
At the same time, other animators work on secondary characters. Nick Ranieri is drawing Miko, Pocahontas' raccoon friend. Miko started out as a talking turkey named Red Feather, but when the movie took a more realistic turn, talking animals were dropped, and Nick immersed himself in raccoons instead.
This place is crawling with raccoons. I mean, whoops, they're everywhere. Here's a raccoon puppet.
That's a raccoon puppet.
Do you get sick of raccoons? I mean, when you're done with a project like this, you're like, yuck.
Well, I don't know. Hey, raccoons pay my salary.
Okay, let's take a look at this.
All right.
Within a few weeks, Glenn is ready to show directors Mike and Eric a rough 3-second clip from Sequence 11. Everyone's first glimpse of Pocahontas comes to life.
Pocahontas is about the most subtle character we've animated, where you're just animating a slight little lower eyelid. I mean, I would experiment with this. I think, can we do this? Can the audience really see that kind of a subtle expression?
In fact, you try it on your family at the dinner table, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, with my wife, Linda would sit there, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to have a blank face, and then I'm going to just lift the corner of my mouth. Just a little bit, and she'd go, what are you doing? What are you making that face for? Ah, you saw it, that's good. You can see it.
Is there enough in her eyes, do you think, if this is the first moment that we see her looking at him?
The directors think it may be too subtle. They tell Glenn to keep working. This is also a tough time for music men Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz. 8 songs get tossed out because they just don't work in the story anymore. Songs like these.
I hear a different drummer dancing in my head. And we all live in the middle of the river. Da-da-da. Or powerful magic. Da-da-da. Powerful magic. Ba-da-da.
By September of 1994, 3 years after someone said, hey, let's do a movie about Pocahontas, Glenn Keane and John Pomeroy finally have this rough version of Sequence 11.
It's a daring sequence because in animation, everyone feels a need to have the characters vocally emoting. Finally, they took a chance with trying to depict a truly strong emotional moment with just silence and stillness.
But the 4-year trek is far from over.
So far, the process for Glenn Keane and the other animators is pretty much the same as it's been since Walt Disney first picked up a pen. But at this point, technology takes over, and normally our story would end here at this restricted area. But for the first time ever, Disney is allowing cameras inside their computer lab so we can actually see the machines behind the magic.
The computer takeover starts here. Each drawing for the movie, 24 drawings for every second of film, is photographed and loaded into Disney's special computer system. That goes to the ink and paint department. All the painstaking outline and color work that used to be done by hand is now done with computers. Once the color is in, the special effects department takes over. Here, Disney created a canoe for Pocahontas that looks and moves like a real one. They start out with this 3-dimensional wire sculpture of the canoe and Pocahontas, then add on hand-painted canoe artwork that's been programmed with Disney-invented software.
Just around the river bend.
Meanwhile, layout artists hand-paint thousands of huge landscapes, backgrounds for the action in Pocahontas. Characters and backgrounds are married by computer, then go through a final check frame by frame to make sure there are no flaws.
In 1607, we sailed the open sea.
With most of the animation finished, Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz supervise final recordings of their songs.
The world is like heaven, and we'll all be rich and free.
They watch a monitor with the animated scene playing in time to the music to make sure the singers are in sync.
That was cool.
Which is exactly the reaction Glenn and John hope they'll get. Sequence 11, the big romantic moment, 4 years in the making, is done, and it's time to show it to everyone.
We don't really know if the chance taking is going to finally pay off until you see it all cut together with some sound and some music and some color. And we watched it, and it worked. Even though we created it, we actually got caught up in the moment, as if we didn't even draw it.
We did what we set out to do because we made a whole group of people come in and look at a piece of paper and forget that it was a piece of paper. They believed that Pocahontas was a real person.
Disney is planning an extra special premiere tomorrow for Pocahontas, outdoors on 4 screens, each 100 feet high, in New York's Central Park. Admission will be free, and it's expected more than 60,000 people will attend. Pocahontas opens nationwide on June 23rd.
Still ahead.
You know, I hate to lose at anything.
Was that what drove him to be one of the best quarterbacks of all time? Joe Montana on his career and retirement on the Bob Costas interview.
Dodge Intrepid has more available power than Camry, more available safety features than Accord. It's rated less expensive to maintain than Bonneville, and its cab-forward interior is bigger than Taurus's. So it's no surprise that Intrepid's resale value is higher than all of the above. Or should I say, all of the below. Dodge Intrepid. This changes everything. Get 1.9% financing or choose an Intrepid lease rate of only $219 a month.
You know what this is? America's favorite way to clean, Pine Sol. But if your husband says, it smells like a pine forest. Introducing new Lemon Fresh Pine Sol. Now you get that great Pine Sol clean with the scent of pine or fresh lemon.
When you're outside and you want bugs gone, now there's an off that you don't put on. Now there's an off that starts with a light, so you can enjoy a delightful night. Hey, hey.
New off citronella candles with a unique country fresh scent. They're the bright new way to keep bugs away. Just light them and let them do the rest.
When you want bugs as good as gone, try the new off that you don't put on.
New off citronella candles. S.C. Johnson Wax.
When you're in pain, you don't want to just ease the pain or soothe the pain or lessen the pain. You want to stop the pain. That's why I use Motrin IB.
Motrin IB. The pain stops here.
Something new is here to tempt you at breakfast.
Temptations.
New Kellogg's Honey Roasted Pecan Temptations cereal. Roasted pecans, luscious golden honey, crisp, crunchy oven-baked flakes of corn.
Temptation.
Irresistibly delicious cereal. New Kellogg's Temptations. If the honey roasted pecan doesn't tempt you, the French vanilla almond will.
Now the Dateline timeline. All the following events happened during the second week of June. Do you know what the year was? At least 400 people were killed during civil disturbances in India. The average price of a U.S. home broke 6 figures. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was the top movie.
And this is everything you'd want in a president.
Alex, put this away. You'll frighten him.
Family Ties was TV's top sitcom. And Denise Williams had the #1 single. All right, what year was it? 1984, 1985, or 1986? The answer when Dateline continues.
Let's get Dad a gas trick track for Father's Day. Nah. A Wonder Fork. Nah. A Clappy Cooker. Nah.
Need a great gift for Father's Day? Come to Radio Shack. We've got what dads want most. And with Radio Shack Gift Express, we can even pack and ship it. Why rack your brains?
A power tie. Nah.
Radio Shack. You've got questions, we've got answers.
The new advanced walker from Easy Spirit conforms to your foot.
so you don't have to conform to anything. Test walk the inspiration. Inside's your own personal walking shoe. Outside's the whole world.
Right now at Sears Auto Center, all Bridgestone tires are on sale 5 to 15% off, featuring the Bridgestone Road Handler with a 75,000-mile warranty and free road hazard coverage. So hurry into Sears Auto Center today.
Surprise! You may have instantly won one of 15 all-new Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Or one of over 20,000 other great prizes. It's all part of the Victory Lap Instant Win Sweepstakes. Just look inside specially marked boxes of Kellogg's Cornflakes cereal to see if you've won.
It's the trial of the century. Who's winning? Is the prosecution making its case, or is the defense succeeding? Some surprising answers on a special edition of NBC Nightly News Monday.
You know these guys who strut around saying, I ain't afraid to fight nobody? Oh, please. We're looking at a major shortage of brain cells here because anybody in their right mind is scared of fights. And it's okay to be scared, and it's okay to walk away. It's a good way to avoid winding up with a face that looks like a raw meatloaf. So use your head for something besides a punching bag. Be smart enough to walk away.
This message brought to you by Caterpillar, proud to be a company that cares.
So what year was it? Indy had troubles. Family Ties led the sitcoms. And Let's Hear It for the Boy led the charts. It all happened the second week of June, 1984.
From Studio 3B in New York, here is Stone Phillips.
With the NBA Finals in full swing, Bob Costas is on the road covering the games for NBC Sports. Bob joins us now from Orlando with a story about a man who knows all about big games. Bob?
Stone, it's been almost 2 months now since Joe Montana announced his retirement from pro football. I spoke with him and his wife Jennifer the day after that announcement at their home in Kansas City. The interview was to have run that night, but the same day the tragedy in Oklahoma City occurred, which obviously took precedence. At the time the interview was done, we didn't know that Montana would sign a deal to become a commentator with NBC Sports. I'll have more on that after we look at this. A conversation with the man who, aside from Michael Jordan, was perhaps the biggest team sports star of his era.
Montana drops back to throw, looks over the field, goes for the end zone. Touchdown, 49ers!
He is quite possibly the greatest quarterback in NFL history. No one has pulled off more stunning comebacks or pulled them off with more drama.
Back to throw Montana. Steps up, throws. Touchdown, 49ers!
Looking toward the end zone, throwing under pressure, throws his pass, caught by Clark!
And except for Terry Bradshaw, no one else has led their team to 4 Super Bowl victories. Yet for all his on-field heroics, for all his fame, few have a fix on who Joe Montana is. For a guy who played with so much flair, Montana the man seems remarkably without it. He appears calm to the point of being nearly emotionless.
My wife says the same thing, that I keep everything inside me. Excitement, fear, whatever. It's always penned up inside me. But I'm not an overly emotional person.
What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about you?
When you deal with the press or the media in any form, you tend to take on a different personality because you become so guarded against maybe things that have happened to you, or you try to. I mean, I had a situation in San Francisco where I got one reporter comes up to me and says, well, sit down and explain football to me like you would explain it to one of your teammates. And you go through all the X's and O's and all this stuff, and he rips you in the paper the next day saying I was trying to talk over his head. And it makes it difficult because, you know, Jennifer says, well, guy, just relax and let your personality be known. And I keep going, okay, I'll do it. And then yesterday in the press conference,
some of the special guests, the mayor, Mr. DeBarlo, Carl
I get up there and I could feel myself talking in one monotone voice like every time when I would deal with the press. And it's so difficult for me to open it up and let it go like I would do at home or I do in the locker room.
We're in an era now where guys who haven't accomplished 1% of what you've accomplished strut and showboat and call attention to themselves, and you don't do that off the field, and even on the field, you might pump a fist or thrust your hands in the air after a touchdown, but there's not a lot of this self-aggrandizing stuff.
There's just a little bit too much celebrating. You know, it's great to show emotion on the field, but I mean, it's getting to where now you almost have to have a TV timeout so everybody can do something.
Joe Montana, now 39, grew up in Monongahela, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. The road to the Hall of Fame almost ended right there. Football didn't come easy to him as a kid.
Michael Jordan has said there's always at least a little part of him that's the kid who got cut from his high school basketball team. Do you see any of that in yourself?
Well, I almost quit football when I was 10 or 11, and I look back on it and I'm kind of glad my father made me finish the season. So I ended up continuing to play, and yeah, I look back on that moment a lot, and I do see that.
When he was quarterbacking Notre Dame, his fans saw something else.
At Notre Dame, they used to call you Montana-lo because they said you looked like Barry Manilow.
Yep.
Could you see it when you looked in the mirror? Yeah, they're right, or what?
No. Oh, God, but they did have a picture. I guess he came to Notre Dame and sang, and he wore my jersey on stage, and they had a picture from the side that did resemble a little bit. Just a little.
You gave without taking, but I sent you away. Oh, man.
The NFL didn't send Joe Montana away, but it didn't exactly welcome him with open arms either. Still, the 82nd choice in the NFL draft ended up a superstar. Among the many reasons why, perhaps most important was this: his ability to stay calm and controlled while all hell was breaking loose.
You ever know fear out there?
I don't believe so. I think, well, I'll take that back. Maybe once.
When?
When, after the Giant game where Leonard broke my hand. When I was lying on the ground, I didn't even know my hand was broken because I'd hit the ground and got the wind knocked out of me, but I've never had it to that degree. Normally you can breathe out a little bit. You can't breathe in, but you can at least get... I couldn't breathe either way. I thought I was going to die.
When people see you off the football field, you're not terribly big, you're not physically imposing, and you seem to be a person with a passive demeanor. Do you actually undergo some kind of transformation when you strap on the helmet and go out onto the field? Do you become a different person?
I think you almost have to. I mean, that's a strange world inside that round circle out there, and people are yelling, screaming. It's you know, almost they want to see blood and guts, you know, and hanging all over the place. And so you have to have a different attitude in there.
It seems to me that some guys have a natural well of competitive juice that they can call upon. Do you sense that in yourself?
On our honeymoon, that we got an argument over backgammon and styles of play and winning, and probably, you know, I hate to lose at anything.
So isn't that going to be the hardest part? Not hearing the cheers, you've heard plenty of that, but just a place to take that part of your nature?
I think so.
But once in a while, the competitor lets his guard down.
I hope I'm not disturbing you.
I hope I'm not disturbing them.
On Saturday Night Live, he was in a skit called The Honest Guy.
God, he's going to scare her away.
Stu, this is Leslie. Leslie Stu.
Hi, I'm very glad to meet you. I'm very glad to meet her.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
God, this guy's a stiff.
Well, that's kind of the reaction his wife Jennifer had when they met making this 1984 commercial.
Try the Schick disposable.
It beats them both.
The director pulled me aside and he said he's really, really uptight, you know, can you just loosen him up or make him feel comfortable or whatever? And I don't know why, but we had to be, the first shot we had to be arm in arm of all things, and he was just sweating up a storm. So uncomfortable too, and so I had my arm down and I just pinched his butt. And then, I mean, his face was just crimson color. And that probably was the start of it. Yeah.
Jennifer is his third wife. The Montanas married in 1985 and have 4 children.
Do you wonder about what he'll do, not just to occupy his time, but to occupy his heart and his mind?
I know he'll find a nice outlet. Nothing will ever probably compare to the playing days, but he'll be able to find some fulfillment.
Is there a feeling now of completion?
I can't say I do yet. I mean, you'd think that you would feel the finality of it over the last few days, but we just kind of move along, and you don't really think, at least I don't, that boom, that's gone, and then we're going into something else. It's exciting, though, on one hand.
It's scary that way, though. I mean, it is like part of your life is over, and now is behind you, and you really are starting something new, but not completely new. It's just like a chapter maybe is over.
One new chapter is in television. Since Montana's public personality has been so reserved, the jury is out on how well suited he'll be to his new role as a pregame and halftime commentator. In fact, Montana raised eyebrows when he said he'd be uncomfortable criticizing players and coaches. I spoke with him about that this week. He says his observations, which he says will include criticisms, will come from a player's perspective. In his view, this will lead to insights rather than harshness.
Thanks, Bob. Now let's take a look at one of the stories we're working on for Tuesday's Dateline. You're in a rush. You grab a payphone. Then you get the bill.
I think it would have been cheaper to call Europe.
Why some payphones charge 8 times as much as you're used to paying. And how you can protect yourself.
Making a payphone call is like playing a slot machine.
The hidden costs of calling home. A Dateline investigation. On Dateline Tuesday.
That's Dateline for this Friday. We'll see you again for Dateline Tuesday at 10 Eastern, 9 Central Time. I'm Katie Couric. For all of us at NBC News, good night.
For a transcript, call 1-800-777-TEXT. To purchase a video segment, call 1-800-420-2626. America's most watched news magazine program, Dateline and NBC News. Now, more than ever.
The Tonight Show, Val Kilmer, Reggie Miller, NBC Tonight.
Must-see TV. Tuesday on Wings, it's a party for Faye with a special cake.
Oh, God, she's naked as a jaybird.
Then on an all-new Something Wilder, there's a bad leak.
I'm going to be unflappable.
A really bad leak. You little pea-brain. Followed by Frasier and John Larroquette. Must-see TV, NBC Tuesday. Plus, stay for the big sandwich.
Announcing the grand opening of the Frame Shop at Color Fast Photo on Sheridan Road. Receive 50% off any custom frame from our selection of in-stock moldings. That's the Frame Shop, Peoria and East Peoria.
Johnny Bench for S&K.
S&K has offered fine quality menswear since before they were even born. Today's selection includes suits at 2 for $200, 2 for $300, and none higher than 2 for $500, plus handsome sport coats and Pierre Cardin dress shirts. Menswear value for 28 years. Start your own tradition at S&K.
3 area locations in Bloomington, Champaign, and Springfield.
Saturday only, it's one big day of store-wide savings at Famous Bar's 15-hour sale. A sale so big, we're giving you extra hours to shop. Stores open early at 8 a.m. and stay open late till 11. You'll find big savings on great gifts just in time for Mother's Day. And don't miss the early bird specials from 8 to 11 a.m. Famous Bar's 15-hour sale. Shop early, shop late. It all happens this Saturday. Stores open from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. The 15-hour sale, only at Famous Bar.
Grimm's has built a reputation on outstanding service since 1920. So shop Grimm's last. Find out why satisfaction